Okay, we welcome Theresa V. Wilson is the next one on deck for the Cavalcade of Authors Readers Appreciation Weekend, and show a little bit of her book, The Real Housewives of the Bible. And we're going to get into that because you have more than The Real Housewives, but this is the first of a franchise that you will tell us more about. Give us an intro to you.
An intro to me. Well, I'll do the intro to me through The Real Housewives of the Bible. So it's a first book in a series about, it's a what if or possible behind the scenes journey of women who were connected to some of the most influential characters in the Bible. That's why Real Housewives. And it's the beginning. It's actually my first fiction because I was more involved in nonfiction. And it's part of a series that includes the Bachelorettes of the Bible, the Bachelors of the Bible, the Husbands of the Bible, and who am I missing? I think that's it. But it will be a book. It will be a series. So
that's good to hear. So the series. So we've got the Real Housewives of the Bible. Then who else do you have?
The Real Housewives of the Bible, and then it'll be the Bachelorettes of the Bible, the Bachelors of the Bible. Almost forgot the Bachelors, and then the Husbands of the Bible.
Gotcha. So what was this journey like writing something? I mean, it's a take on a franchise that people are familiar with, The Real Housewives. And then you have on there, because we've seen images of Cleopatra and the people in what was that movie that everybody watches at Easter?
David and Bathsheba was one movie. Ben-Hur is another movie, but David and Bathsheba has been
The one with the guy that plays Moses, was it Charlton Heston? What was
Charlton Heston, right. That was, yeah. He played Moses also. He also played Ben-Hur. You're right.
The 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments. Thank you.
10 Commandments. Thank you, Deirdre. The 10 Commandments. And none of those people kind of look like the woman that's on the cover that you have now. And I felt that when you did that, I was like, okay, well, we know where the Bible takes place and everything.
Well, the Bible takes place in Africa. People, they talk about Israel, but it's on the continent of Africa. And there are people of various colors on the continent. And I was very much comfortable having the representatives that I have on the cover. I think it's recognizing that most definitely multicultural. And I thought to me, it just was the best representation for what I wanted to project in the women of the Bible.
Exactly, because when people think of that, I mean, we've been conditioned because we watch those movies.
It was Elizabeth Taylor. It was, yeah.
Gorgeous. Somebody said, oh my God, with the bomb cover on here. Who was that? Victoria Kinsey, welcome, with that bomb cover.
Yes, I had somebody who just knew my heart that did that cover. Somebody you might know, but J.L. Woodson. I'll tell you, he interviewed me. And he really interviewed. He showed interest in what I had as an idea, and then he just put it on the cover. So I'm very excited about this, the cover, and excited that I had a chance to really connect with him. So shout out, JL.
Indeed. Deirdre Young said, I just bought this book. Shannon Harper said, it's on my to get list. And that is, the thing about it is the cover is, it pulls you in, but it's the content that will keep people in the brand. What can they expect when they dive into the book?
They can, because again, it's a historical fiction. So they can expect not to really relate heavy in terms of the Bible. The characters do, but I really wanted to take a behind the scenes, what if? Did we really know the journey of the women in the Bible? For an example, Bathsheba, the fact that she was a military kid. And as a military kid, her grandfather was chief officer under King David. And her father was also one of the mighty men. So there was quite a connection. So I wanted to really give a flavor of how the woman transitioned into whatever role that she ended in terms of the Bible. Like Bathsheba married Uriah first, but that was an arranged marriage. And people will notice when you read the Bible, I think Uriah may be mentioned 2 or 3 times, and most specifically at his end. But there was something I felt that happened with those two that led to the transition for her to connect with King David. So I had a lot of fun writing that and exploring the person Uriah and his connection to her.
I thought that was interesting. And I think, there's a whole lot of stuff that happens in the Bible on the wicked side, really and truly. But I think they only mentioned this particular story in depth because she was part of a lineage.
Yes.
Of something that happened way down of an important person. So they they really kind of showed that the affair led into something great.
Yes.
The women are buying that right about now. No, he could pull that off because he was king. And you tell your husband's a boyfriend, you ain't king. You can't do that.
Exactly. So that and it's very. I hope the readers enjoy reading about the dynamic between Bathsheba, Uriah, and then of course the love affair and the connection with David, who was a bad boy, in the end.
That's something to learn from, because David was he's straight up and down there. He was a party boy. I mean, he got it in. Some had questionables about who all he got it in with, but he did his thing. But he was still the apple of God's eye, even though he was all that dirt. Because
he fell on his sword each time.
Yep, he still put God first, even when he was doing that dirt. So God said, "Yeah, keep the party going."
Yeah, and the forgiveness part came right in. I mean, it's really a great connection with that. Another character I will mention, and I'll try to read a little bit about her, Gomer the harlot who married the prophet. And that in itself just talks about that endless love. But she was her own person. But I wanted to write about her youth, what the make-believe, but again, the transitioning of her. In some of the research that I did with Gomer, it was made mention that it may have been 3 people, 3 Gomers, but actually I wrote the story about a woman who had various stages of transitioning in her life: youth, a young adult, and then the years married to Hosea. And it has I won't say an interesting end, but it really speaks to some endless love there, but a woman who was her own person.
That too, but there's this saying that in today's time where you can't make a certain woman a housewife, and if they really want to,
Yes, she was definitely one.
You're right, and so you can tell. So all the women are saying, they're like, "Hey, you look at the Bible. That's been done a couple of times, so get off my case." It just shows that when you're there for a purpose, God doesn't care where your past comes from. He knows all of that. He or she, call God, by female, but because God is a spirit, in worship and spirit and truth. But God says this particular person is called for this reason. It doesn't care. You look at David. You look at some of the bad boys and bad girls of the Bible have some of the most dynamic stories. And they're
what's beautiful? Yeah. I was about to say, the beauty of it is it shows how he takes imperfect people. These were everyday, normal, in sin, who have had challenges, but he took the everyday person. I think he said, is saying that don't assume that everyone has to be perfect in order to accomplish. And what I liked about just the reading and being able to explore the characters in the Bible and then add some of the fiction with that is these were everyday people with their challenges, and in spite of their challenges, great things came out of it. So this isn't preachy. I can let you know in that it's not a preachy, but it just being able to really delve and explore the characters, it makes quite a read.
Indeed. Speaking of reading, Share a little bit with us. Yes,
sure. Again, I chose Gomer, and this is in her earlier years before moving to Samaria. You can't seem to stop, can you? A familiar voice shouted. Still flaunting your hips and raising your skirts just enough to tease the men you pass in the marketplace. You don't even have the common decency to play your games when I'm not around to observe. DeBellum balled his fists and shook them in the air, stepping close enough to his wife to strike. He stopped midway, whirled around, and slammed his hands on the table. No respect for me, your husband, he said through clenched teeth. And now you've got our daughter, my Gomer, acting the same way at her age. Her skirts are too short, flirting every chance she gets. Are you satisfied, you deceitful heifer? I should have tossed your rump out long ago. Gomer opened her eyes and stretched and focused on a beam of light coming through her window. She ignored the ragged makeshift curtains her mother had sewed together out of scraps of old cloth. Instead, she pretended they were beautiful sheer drapes. She had been listening to the shouting for the last half hour. The topic never changed. Father would come home angry about something her mother did or didn't do with some man in the marketplace, at a friend's house, or on the road to somewhere. Always some man involved. Gomer got one last good stretch before getting started for her day. A door down the hall slammed, and shortly thereafter, her mother opened her door wide. Get your things together, her mother, Devorah, shouted, her thick reddish-brown hair flowing over her shoulders and her dark brown eyes flashing with fire. I'm out of here. We'll be staying at Aunt Reba's for a while. Gomer sat straight in the bed. Mom, for goodness sake, moving to Aunt Reba's place? She scrambled to gather her robe and slippers. She barely has room for her 2 kids and the dog. I won't have a room of my own, she blurted, half sobbing when she realized her mother was serious. And we're going there now? Where will I put my things? I can't even take my cat because Aunt Reba has that scroungy dog. Devorah took 3 giant steps to reach Gomer and grabbed her by the shoulders. Gripping hard, she raised her hand, ready to land a blow. In the middle of the act, she stopped, hugged her daughter hard, and cried. 15 years old, and look where I have you, she said as she gripped a pillow and slammed it on the floor. Don't you see? I can't live with your father anymore. He doesn't understand me. It's too much. Trying to work this out. I need my space. Wrapping both arms around her mother's neck, Gomer kissed her cheek. Mom, you don't have to keep calling DeBellum my father. We both know the truth. He's a nice man, but I'm not sure he's my father, and neither are you. Devorah pushed away and locked her eyes with Gomer. What do you mean you're not sure he's your father? She asked. It's okay, Gomer smiled, trying to hide her pain. I don't need a father. I've got you. Of course he's your father, Devorah said again without looking at her daughter. Gomer shifted her position and adjusted the bed covers, then responded, Mom, I've known the truth since I was 12 years old. You know Aunt Reba can't keep a secret. I found out one evening while I was at her place. With a one-sided shrug, she fluffed the bed pillows and sat up. You and Father had gone out for the evening and she began drinking. I mean, really drinking. I don't know how we got on the subject, but she told me about the other man in your life. Devorah slid her hand in a circular motion over the bed covers, concentrating on the creases. After a moment's silence, she muttered several curse words under her breath. She's so stupid, always running her mouth. Gomer patted her mother's hand while watching the tears slide slowly down her cheeks. I was going to tell you when you were older, Deborah said, heaving a deep sigh and lowering her head. Really, I was. She moved a strand of hair from Gomer's face. I'm not sure, that's all. He could be your father. I'm just not sure. Gomer shrugged her head, then hugged her mother hard. Removing the covers, she stood, opened the closet doors, and pulled down a large brown goatskin satchel. I'll start packing. She pulled several tunics from the closet, rolled and placed them in the bag, then turned to her mother. Might as well get started. Wiping tears with the hem of her dress, her mother whispered, it's going to be better, Gomer. You'll see, it's going to be much better living with Rebecca, and maybe an occasional friend. Deborah raised her arms, yawned, stretched, then walked to the door. She paused, looked over her shoulders, and smiled. Besides, we're moving to a better life. Gomer looked at her mother without smiling. Deborah raised her hand and shrugged. Well, okay, she said while scanning the room. While the new room is not that much bigger than the space you have here, to be sure, you will have your own room. Deborah opened the door, walked out, then stuck her head back in the room. Look, it's all temporary. All of this is temporary. Before Gomer could respond, the door closed. Gomer sat on the edge of the bed, listening as her mother's footsteps faded toward the back of their tiny home. Scanning the room, she enjoyed the sudden peace and serenity her space provided. She focused on every detail of the room that had been hers for 5 years, the longest period of time she remembered living in one place. This would be the first move that would include only her and her mother. Well, at least it's over. The game is over, she mumbled. Better finish packing. She got up and pulled an armload of clothes from the overstuffed space she called a closet. The familiar sound of someone playing a tune on her door with their knuckles made her pause and toss the garments haphazardly on the bed. Before she could reach the door, it opened, and in breezed her bubbly party partner and best friend. Hey, girl, Theresa whispered while shutting the door. Your dad told me you were in your room. I was hanging out the wash for my old lady and heard the commotion over here. Jumping on Gomer's bed, Theresa sat, legs crossed, and chuckled. I think half the neighborhood heard the noise. You know how quiet it was after the partying last night. I was just coming over to check on you, sis. What's up? What are they bickering about this time? Gomer flopped on the bed beside Theresa and sighed. We're moving. While leaning her head back and stretching and searching the ceiling. Yep, we're moving, Theresa. The cursing, insults, accusations, and screaming between her mother and the man she called father started again in the kitchen. Gomer glanced at her girlfriend, whose expression was blank and disinterested. Yeah, so apparently they're breaking up. It's just me and Mom moving out, heading to live with Aunt Reba, in Samaria. Both girls sat in silence for a moment. Listen, Gomer hugged her girlfriend tight. It won't be too far. We can still work on our plans to get a place together in a few years. We'll do much better than my mother and aunt ever did. Gomer grabbed her satchel and continued packing more of her things. You'll see. Just let me get settled and we'll plan your regular visits. In the meantime, keep the marketplace games going, just like we planned. Meet, flirt, tease, and play. They both laughed, then Gomer paused and pointed at her friend. Remember, all trinket gifts are saved and traded for cash later. Bring home any cash you get for favors. Hide it and save it toward our moving plans. No deviation. Nothing else needed to be said. Theresa stood and grabbed some of the clothes Gomer had thrown on the bed. Let me help you pack. but leave a few cute things out. Maybe we can get in a couple of money-making ventures before you leave. They both laughed until the shouting and screaming between Gomer's mother and father began again. Just a taste.
That's from the Homer and Gomer story. What other stories are in the book?
The others are David and, Bathsheba, Uriah, and King David. And Rachel, Leah, and Jacob. And then the other is Rebecca and Isaac. And each of them have their own flavor. But what I did find in just writing about them, strong women, even in spite of maybe being in situations that was not of their choosing, they were strong and they made it through.
Mm-hmm. Because there weren't a lot of choices for women back then.
No. And I think that's probably what drew my curiosity to in writing about the women in the Bible, even coming up, you're in Bible study and Bible school. And there was a lot of focus on what was going on with the men in the Bible. And I always really had a kind of curiosity, what was really going on behind the scenes for the women? There had to be a connection. But again, in spite of not having choices, I believe that there was some strength there. And I just wanted to kind of bring that out in a fictional way.
Indeed. So the next one out the gate is The Bachelor.
The next one out the gate, for my midwife, the next one out the gate is The Bachelorette of the Bible, and that's due out in June of next year. That's posted already, so I'm working on it.
And then the women, and then you've got The Bachelors of the Bible.
The Bachelors of the Bible.
Yes.
And it's been suggested that I do another Housewives of the Bible, so we'll see how we can fit that in. But yes.
Because actually the housewives have a different experience than the bachelorettes have.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see going to that direction. And then the bachelors. I mean, it couldn't always be easy for men either when they have to marry a particular woman. They may be in love with somebody else, but because, tradition as well as the laws of the land meant they had to do whatever. Because I have to think about it. When Bathsheba was approached by David, she couldn't really say no, could she?
She couldn't really say no. And I think too, that she was also in awe of him when you kind of think about it. I mean, it's the king and me. So in part of my study about that, he was a good bit older than she was. And actually in her youth, she could have easily have played in the halls while he was king. So there was quite a span of age difference with them because her father had such a connection. He was very close to King David. And in fact, and I write this in the book, I should say her grandfather, and then her father. But the grandfather, and I just touch a little bit about it, had a minor confrontation, just a little, not confrontation, but approached the king because he heard that his granddaughter was going to the castle, and he knew, and he wanted him to do something about it. He didn't accuse David, but he said, "My king, can you look into this and do something about it?" And David said, "Sure, I'll take care of it." Well, his way of taking care of it was he killed Uriah. But if you all will, in reading the Bible, her grandfather partnered with King David's son to kill him years later. This was after the incident with Bathsheba and King David. And from just kind of reading that, my thoughts are, you messed up my family. You messed up my family. So he partnered with David's son to murder him. The Bible is a fascinating journey, a book. I mean, and I just love how God just takes the ordinary people and show you there's the ruthlessness of it, but then there's grace, there's the long suffering, there's the love. But I think to me in it, he's showing that no one's perfect. There are no perfect people. And he took imperfect people deliberately and made them great, in spite of the error. So it was
interesting.
It was great.
My other mother.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No,
My
no.
other mother. That's how she wasn't in church. I was raised by two women who were together for 30 something years, and my other mother, my biological mother, got my other mother involved by telling her to read the porn. It was porn sections of the Bible, is what they call it. So that's how she got her to come to church, is reading all the dirty parts of the Bible. And so you think about
by any means necessary.
So tell us how we can keep in touch. I did put the links in the chat so people can order the book. And somebody said, would Joseph be considered a bachelor of the Bible? Would Joseph?
Yeah. Yes, at some point, because yes, I would say yes, because at some point, I mean, he wasn't born married, so yes, there's something before him. But it's just the way you would write it to introduce. But sure.
Yeah. So she said this is Victoria Kennedy. She's a former member of the tribe. Ordering today.
Bless your heart. Thank you.
So for the people who are watching, tell us how to get in touch with you and to get your books.
All right. The book is on Amazon.com, but if you want to just communicate with me, Theresa at TheresaWilsonBooks.com. You can certainly do that. I have a website, TheresaWilsonBooks.com, and on Instagram at Real Housewives of the Bible. So you can find me. You can definitely find me.
Indeed, indeed. So I thank you for being with us today.
And I want to thank you again, Lisa. I'm going to put it out there. This was my first fiction novel. It's a first, and the transition was challenging, but I still call you my midwife, because this was birthed out of your beating me up. So thank you.
See, there's tribe members that are
and
listening.
I will recommend you.
Yep, we know what that's like. We know what that's like. But there's
love you for that. Thank you so much.
It was a labor. It was a labor of love. It was different.
Yes,
and you saw the full vision.
You did.
And the thing is,
sometimes, and I want everybody to know that. So anybody out there, she's the one to be in touch with about it. And just thank you.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Thank you, and thank you for being with us today. You're going to be put in the backyard, so you can still post things in the in the chat rooms. Oh, Carol, I see you. She said, "Thank God I'm not the only one she beats up." Whatever. So thank you so much for coming with us.
I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Here we go. And I've got to stop for